Hello everyone, welcome back to Valley of the Mist Block of the Month. I'm Adriane Ritter.
And I'm Shelley McNeely.
We're here with the February 2021 Block of the Month. So this is the block we're doing this month. Shelley came up with this block just by looking at a picture of something and saying, that'd make a nice block. Actually, when she looked at the original block, the person who had done it, they had done it paper pieced. So we're going to show you how to do it not paper pieced.
Yeah, with a little slightly different. It's slightly different,
right.
But yeah.
Okay, so number one, go to the website, the Valley Mist Quilt Guild website, and get a copy of the instructions. And then Shelley's going to go over the fabrics we need this month.
So, first of all, our fabrics for the year that we're using is a focus fabric that you pick.
So that's Shelley's focus,
Right.
and this is my focus, this pattern green one.
And then a coordinating fabric, and then two neutrals. And I have a white and a brown to go with mine.
Okay, so then for this month in particular, what do we need?
Okay, we're going to need strips that are 18 inches long, and we need at least 5 strips. It could be more than 5, but the total when you lay them next to each other, oh, I shouldn't say that.
Well, if you're doing 5.
Yeah, if you're doing 5, it'll be 12 inches wide. You lay them next to each other, because that's how many seams, and if you're doing a 1/4 inch seam, we'll make it to be 10 inches wide. So your final product will be 10 inches by 18 inches.
Right, and so, and you have to have one of each, and then I'm doing 2 white. On this one, I did 2 of my gray. You get to choose what you want.
Right.
There is one other piece of fabric that you're going to need, and that's this little piece here, and we will go over that later. It will depend, the size will depend on how your block comes together. On this one, when I made it, I started with a 7-inch square, and as you can see, I didn't even use half of it, so I'm hoping I can use the other part on this one. So when you sew this first part, which is what we're going to do, we're going to go away and we're going to sew the first part. You're going to sew those strips along the long edge and try to keep one of the ends even that you're sewing the strips along.
Right.
Yeah, the other edge.
In other words, maybe start at the same end each time. Makes it easier, right?
Yeah, they kind of get wavy sometimes, but just try to watch to keep one end straight. If your pieces are 18 inches, which we did based on a fat 1/4, then you're fine. Just match them at both ends. Right. And so we want you to come back with this piece that's 18 by 10 inch rectangle. It can be a little bigger. If you make it too much bigger, it doesn't help. Right. It kind of changes some of the angles, right. I think. So try to keep it roughly around within a 1/4 inch of the 10-inch wide. On mine actually weren't completely straight, the strips, so I just made sure that the narrowest was at least 10, and they weren't too wide after that. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then when we come back, you will need a few rulers. I used just kind of a long ruler and a square up ruler, or my big square up ruler, but because we have to do a little bit of tricky cutting, but it's not too bad. All right, we'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're back, and we have our strip sets that are 18 by 10, and this is what I meant about trying to keep one edge pretty straight. The other edge can be, whatever. I did forget to mention 2 things before we went away. The first one is that the easiest way to make sure you have the right width is to sew together like 4 of your strips and then measure how much you need and then cut that last piece to make sure you get it right. But you can, do it the other way too. And then I forgot to talk about pressing, which just press to the dark. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now the next thing that we have to do is the trickiest part of the cutting. And so you're going to take your piece of your rectangle and have the straight edge to Just watch how I do it. Okay. So you're going to measure along from that bottom corner of the straight edge. You need a ruler that's at, at least 13.5 inches, but 14 would probably be better. And you're going to take and you're going to go from this bottom corner over to 13.5 inches on the top, and you're going to make a cut from that bottom corner to that. Okay, so I'm going to do that real quick while you're watching. Take this ruler, bottom corner, I put it right at the center of the triangle, swing it around to 13.5. I'm left-handed, so that's why I stumbled over which side to tell you, because I can cut with either hand. So then, now this, we'll call this triangle, triangle 1, that first one I cut off, okay? So now, you're going to put this back up here, or in front of you, and you need to make another cut. This is going to be hard to do because it's not tall enough. But all right, Shelley said we'd have to use the board. Oh, can you get it? Thank you. Behind us, but put it up on there. And that's fine. Put it high. Just put it high. Like this? Yeah. Okay, so now on here, we want the next cut, and you can use whatever ruler's long enough. I just grabbed this one because it was easy. But we want this to be a right triangle. So you're going to lay a long edge on here, and then we're going to make a cut right across there. So you have a right triangle. And I can actually do it with a small ruler because the same way, if I just make sure that that is lined up straight, then what I have hanging off, I've got this making a right triangle. So I'm just going right up to that top corner, and I'm going to make this cut here. Make sure it's... we made this so that there's a little extra fabric, so if it's not perfectly a right triangle, you're okay. Okay, so we're going to call this part that I'm cutting off triangle 2, okay? And then this is your base of your block. So now you have a piece that's roughly a big right triangle. And so you're going to lay this out so you're in front of you like that. And you're going to take this one that I called triangle 1, and you take the hypotenuse of it, the long edge, and it goes out, and this edge will go in next to it. So now we've kind of made a
square, almost.
Almost. It's just missing a few parts.
Right.
Okay. So in the original block that Shelley saw, this part that, to make this block 12.5 like we do, this was all filled in with
white.
But we have this piece here. So rather than throw it away, if you want to, it looks beautiful if you make it with a big piece of white there, but we're going to show you how to use this piece. And so this piece you take and, I'm trying to look at my block here. Nope, what did I do? I put it.
We're looking at the right, okay. It's up and down.
Trying to think of how I did this. I have to.
Yeah.
Is it like that? I think it is, yes. So you're going to take, and so you're going to turn it so you have one of your cut edges, the hypotenuse of this one, and that's going to go against this here. And you're going to have to like,
let me hold it up.
Yeah, hold that up. So I've moved it down some to get more height. So like this first part that's mostly like just part of a triangle. Right. I kind of moved that off, and we're going to sew it like that onto there. So that's what we're going to do at this point. And should I keep holding it up like that?
Okay.
I want to show you. So our end goal of this block is to have a 12.5 inch square. And so you can see, like, if I'm right here, you know, if this was held up too, there's a lot here, you know, there's some extra. And all we're gonna have to fill in is this little part here, plus the seam allowances. So right now, the first thing we want you to do is make those 2 cuts, and then you're gonna sew these 2 pieces together. And then we'll come back and we'll evaluate again from there. Okay? All right, so we're back and we have sewn our 2 triangles together. So I'm just gonna say, remember, on triangle 1, the first one you cut off, it's gonna go, the hypotenuse goes out. It makes that other side. And on the triangle 2, the hypotenuse goes against the triangle 1. Right. Okay? So now we have this funky looking triangle piece. Obviously this can get cut off over here. That's useless. But the next step you need to do is to cut this straight. So Shelley has already done that.
Right. It's just that
you're going to cut off that tip, that extra tip. And then you're going to lay your piece so it kind of overlaps like a 1/4 of an inch, so you can kind of see your size.
Yeah, so you know what your seam's going to take up.
You know, this work area here is starting to look like my table with all these rulers. Okay, so show yours how big it is with a 12.5 inch.
All right, so I got, at this point, I don't know if I...
You can go all the way down to the bottom. You can rest it against the table.
Okay.
So she's just got this little part missing. And basically, you've got like a 1/2 triangle here, and we're building out this other half, and then we're going to sew those 2 halves together. Right. So to finish building that out,
use a
smaller ruler.
And kind of see how big. You can be a little bit generous. So you
make sure you allow a 1/4 inch for either side.
Yeah. So you figure out. Mine's is 5.5. 6-inch square is probably the most I need, and I got plenty of extra.
Okay, so mine isn't trimmed all the way, so it's not exactly right, but I need a square like that. So like I said, on the last one, I used a 7-inch square. This one's coming in a little less that I need. And so so what I have left of this square is totally gonna fill this spot easily with extra. And what we're going to do now is you're going to trim
actually, let me just say, if you do have a piece of triangle that would fit, you can see
you could use it. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. You don't have to cut a square if you need it.
Yeah, it's only month 2, so you may not have any triangle pieces. So you're going to trim this piece like Shelley already did. Mm-hmm. Figure out the size piece you need to fill this in. Cut a square. If you don't have a triangle, don't cut a triangle. It's just, you'll end up with a bigger piece left. So then you're going to figure out the size piece you think you need and lay it up against your block and fold it over roughly in the area you think you need it. And then hold it and go and sew it. Don't try to guess at the table, because I really caution you to put your 12.5-inch ruler over it and double check it. So you don't have to unsew and move that to make it fit. So what we want you to do is do that trimming and sew this piece on here, and then press it out, and then we'll come back and then we'll show. There's 2 more steps after that. We're almost done.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, that went good.
Yes.
It did.
Yes.
It did. It was challenging figuring out this block, but once we figured it out, it's easy.
So remember hypotenuse.
Yeah.
The word of the
day.
day.
Go back to your geometry teacher would be proud of you. Okay. So I have already trimmed mine, and so Shelley, show your piece. Oh, you don't have your other piece.
I don't. Oh well. But that doesn't matter for this.
Okay. So mine is already trimmed. If your starting piece looks generally like a big triangle that's like half of your 12.5-inch square, then feel confident to just do what Shelley's kind of showing.
Right.
Go a little lower. You're not on the edge.
Oh.
And you're just going to whack off that triangle and save it, because if you make 2, you need it like I did. Okay, so you end up with a piece like that. It should look like that. So you're going to cut that off. I should make Shelley cut in front of you guys like I do all the time. She go, oh, do you want to see blood spurting everywhere? No. Okay, so now, oh yeah.
Not from this.
Sure, sure. Don't tell us. We know. You know. Free cutting in your quilting. Okay, so now you're going to, if you had both pieces with you, you take your ruler and say, yeah, that looks good. Because you're going to sew this diagonal seam now. And I just want you to look at it. You're going to overlap it a little. And see, this new piece that we made is a little bigger probably than the other. So you want to adjust that up and down a little bit to how you like it. But it is a little bit oversized. Like I definitely have I'm going to end up with probably a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch extra around the edge.
Okay. It looks good to you if you have plenty. So
yeah, just watch those corners. I did have on this one, right here at this seam, it came very close. So kind of like if I move this up a little bit, see this gets taller, but this comes in. That's what you're watching. You're watching those corners as you move it up and down.
Yeah, okay. Just make sure you don't cut off a corner. That's all that matters, right?
We're not cutting anything now.
No, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so you will be cutting.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're going to sew that diagonal seam and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and I have fully sewn and trimmed my block. How many blocks do you have done, Shelley?
None.
Okay, I have 2. All right, all Shelley has to do is trim it up to the 12.5. Right. I, on mine, used this bottom corner, the original corner, that 90 degree as the bottom edge on both of mine, but you don't have to. Right. You can put it where you want on the block.
Depends on how much extra you have. You can play with it.
Right. Just watch, like under your hand here. So there's a. You turned your block or something. No. Oh no, here. This seam. This seam right here. She has to watch a little bit there.
In this corner over here.
Yeah. Just make sure that you have it well covered with fabric, both of your pieces of fabric and those where the seams intersect. And that's it. So we will see you back in March. And have a good time doing this block.